Going live in 3, 2, 1, and done.
Hey,
Supposedly. There we are. Cool. Here we are once again, Sunday night, to drink alcohol together.
For booze. Do you need an excuse?
It's a good excuse, right? We're supposed to drink together. This is a little bit of a special week. I didn't bring the bottle, so hopefully, Richard, you have the actual bottle. I brought a little sample. Botanist selected its own. That's fine. We selected our own barrel of McCarthy's, full cast strength, and we're going to taste it together and see how good
Have we
did.
tried the McCarthy's on this podcast before?
We have.
Yeah.
It's been a while, like in March or something like that. Yeah.
Time flies, I think. Yeah, we all went to the distillery and got to taste their store picks. So, but Botanist is the first bar to do one of their single barrel picks.
When did you decide to go with them rather than anybody else?
McCarthy's was the first Oregon single malt, and they're also the ones that really laid down the laws of what Oregon single malt is going to be. It was the first time ever that a company, let alone like the creators, decided what are going to be the laws that they're going to follow. So it was kind of like back in the 50s, this started to happen, and they made it themselves. They didn't source it. They started it the traditional old-fashioned way. And, now here they are with, I think they have the best single malt in America. And so that being said, you look at like, say, Westward or a couple of other places, and I mean, they're doing amazing jobs. By no standards are they less or are not making just as good whiskey. It's just, I feel like they each have their specialty, and McCarthy's has stayed true to just perfection. Not a lot of marketing, not a lot of like press, whereas like Westward's gone and put millions of dollars into expanding the category that is Oregon single malt.
So how many of these bottles have you cracked open?
I think we've already gone through like 5 or 6 at the bar. Helps when you put it in a cocktail.
Now, do you have to? How does it? So, in Oregon, you have to go through a liquor store, correct?
Correct.
And who are you guys going through?
We go through a liquor store called Uptown. It's up on 23rd Northwest. In Oregon, it's the best and the worst, in the sense that you can't get the actual barrel. There's a bunch of things that you can't necessarily do. The price doesn't really change when you do something like this. That being said, you also aren't buying it all at once. Whereas I think in other states and other bars, you have to buy the barrel, which is, it's a $10,000 purchase, give or take a couple thousand. Here in Oregon, technically the store decides to carry it, and OLCC buys it for you. And you just have to make a gentleman's promise to say that you're going to go through it.
So how long do you think that will last?
10 months.
Really? That quick?
Oh, yeah.
So in a year, you're going to do another one?
The plan is, yeah. I would love to do more with them. The next bar concept I'll be launching is going to be a cocktail distillery. And so technically speaking, McCarthy's Clear Creek will be providing most of the alcohol for that distillery. So the way that I've came up with this idea is just looking at other distilleries that just source their products. And I looked at that and was like, well, bartenders do that anyway. Why wouldn't a bar source their alcohol in the same way that these new faux distilleries do it? I'll just do that. And so talking with Clear Creek and kind of figuring out how to do it through them, McCarthy's would be the whiskey of that next project.
So how many did you try? How many different barrels did you try?
We tried, I think it was 4 different barrels. We talked about even blending them a little bit, but we eventually ended up picking this one because it was the most unique. It was the most fruity of all of them, and it was also actually I think we tried 6, but this one was the most fruity of all of them, and it was very, very just unique, spicy, and we thought it would go really well in our old fashioned. So our house old fashioned is made with this.
Smells delicious. I mean, you definitely get a little medicinal. The Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Heated whiskey. If I'm not mistaken, they get their peat from Scotland, correct?
They do. Which I always thought was a little funny, just being that technically there's a lot of peat up in Washington as well.
Have they tried checking out the peat up in Washington?
Sure they have. I'm sure there's a reason why they don't use it.
Well, okay. Well, there it is. I see where it's spicy. Yeah, it is spicier than the other ones I've had of these. Well, that's nice. Well, there's the hug.
We wanted, I mean, honestly, like being on this show with you guys has really, it's taught me a lot about what people are looking for when they're having their whiskey. And so taking like what Richard and Chad, you've been saying, you know, all these things, it's like, okay, how do I select a barrel that would make you guys happy at what you're tasting, and then put that in cocktails and kind of extrapolate from there.
That is delicious, man.
Right.
That is really good.
Excellent.
That goes on a big old journey. It loses that medicinal smell, obviously.
Yeah.
And then it has like a black pepper spice up front. I don't know if that's the barrel proof or what it is. And then it gets really fruity, and then you just get that fire hug down your chest that warms you up.
Yeah.
So that's a journey. That's a good one.
Cool.
What's been the response from the people at the bar?
What's up?
What's been the response from the people at the bar?
Everyone's really liked it so far. I think, you know, I think this is definitely the kind of the future of what bars should be doing more, is having more of these bar picks and having their own unique versions of these big brand names.
So if I go into the Botanist and I just order an old fashioned without going any deeper with my server, this is what I'll get. I don't have to request the old fashioned with the McCarthy's. It's
Nope. So we blend it with Evan Williams 100 proof. And so it's bourbon as kind of like a base, and then we add a little bit of McCarthy's to kind of bolster it, both in alcoholic strength, but also just that spice and the smoke and all these different flavors. And so it's kind of a blending of its own sorts. Like you're, in the sense that we got the idea actually from Richard, when Richard said, like, why isn't there someone who blends bourbons? I was like, well, that's a good question. Why isn't there someone who blends bourbons? Well, what if a bar decided to blend a bourbon and a single malt together? Technically speaking, there is barley in a bourbon's mash bill, but not anything of the quantity. And most bourbons only use 10%, because that's the minimum amount that they need for the enzyme in barley to kick in and help them actually ferment the rest of the mash bill. So the question came out of it was, well, what if our old fashioned had a much heavier barley bill?
It's good.
I got to go to the Botanist just to try that out.
It's definitely one of our top sellers, that's for sure.
You know, and I'm going to say, I mean, in Oregon, because I think obviously you can only get it at one store, so you can only get it in Oregon. And I think it's $59.
Something like that, yeah. 55.
To get a single malt, to get a cask strength single barrel single malt for under $60. Even just for the price point, you're not going to beat that at all.
Did you have anything to do with the price?
I didn't. That's OLCC decides that. And whenever you make a barrel pick in Oregon, it kind of just is usually the price that the other bottle's at. And so, for example, if I went and chose like my own barrel of Woodford, it's going to come back as the same price that Woodford is.
Yeah.
Just listed as my Woodford. With McCarthy's, I think they had to upcharge like $2 on this one compared to like the regular McCarthy's, which
So McCarthy's or Hood River did that upcharge.
yeah. Well, I think they had to work it out with OLCC, and OLCC said, yeah, no, you got to jack that up a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, most other states like say there's a Buffalo Trace and there's a Buffalo Trace store pick. Most states that store pick's can be $5 to $10, maybe even $20 more. Depends on where you're at, how hard they had to get it, how much they had to pay, how much they got bent over the barrel to get the barrel.
Well, and I mean, to me, this is like the joys of having a control state, in the sense that the bar is not buying it, the store is not buying it. Technically, the state of Oregon is buying it. And they're just expecting you to go through this, which, I mean, obviously with COVID and whatnot, that makes it a little more up in the air and whatnot, with bars, failing left and right and opening and closing, all that stuff. But at the same time, before this, I mean, it almost always was fine because they almost always went through it. And if they didn't, they started putting on the shelf and say, hey, buy this.
So could the OLCC then decide, hey, this isn't moving enough, we're going to start putting it in other stores rather than just Uptown?
Absolutely. I mean, if for whatever reason it's a bar, faulted on that, they would drop the price and sell it.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's with all the big name ones, people are having trouble getting store picks just for distribution reasons, and the more big name ones, it's harder to get because of the big whiskey craze anyways.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing is like, you think about how hard is it to get these big name whiskeys, and yet here in Oregon we're producing stuff that you can get regularly and normally, and it's amazing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's shop local when you can, especially if you live in Oregon.
Especially when you bottle is almost half the price of the Texas bottle, and
does Uptown put it on the shelf, or do you got to ask for it?
I don't know, actually. I think you probably have to ask for it, and just say, hey, Robbie told me I can buy a bottle, which my answer is always going to be absolutely go for it.
If you want to feel bougie, go in there and say, Robbie said I could buy one of his bottles.
I mean, Andrew over there, I'm sure if you just said, hey, can I get the Botanist Select of McCarthy's, he'd be like, sure, I don't care. He might send me a text, be like, is this okay? And I would, of course, be absolutely. And I figured, if you just say Robbie said it was okay, I'm sure he would even not even text me and just be like, okay, it's fine. And if this ever turns into a situation where, hey, Robbie, you have 50 bottles left in 3 months or whatever, I'll be like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have ever said that. But I somehow don't think that's going to happen overnight.
Well, but even if it is, it's time to go get another barrel.
Crimey River, exactly.
Hey, but you're not going to be able to get obviously the same one. Do you know what your second pick would be?
I mean, that's the fun of this though, is like it is a one-time thing. And so there, when I first started bartending, there was this word that I learned when I was in Japan. It was called Ichigo Ichie. And it was one chance, one encounter is what that means. And so there was a bartender from Slovakia that kind of taught him to how to look at that phrase was, when a guest walks into your bar today, Richard today is only going to be Richard today. Tomorrow, Richard's a different person. He's a new Richard. And I have to treat him differently because he's a new Richard. And looking at this barrel pick, it's only going to happen once. And I'm only going to have these bottles once. And then it's going to be another new experience. And you have to expect and understand it's going to be another new experience. But that's what I love about it, is the sense that there's a life to this. There's a living kind of nature to this spirit, this thing that is only going to last for so long, and then it's going to be gone. And it only becomes fun when, Botanist or Robbie can pick so many barrels in a row that are great picks.
And how close were the barrels that you were tasting?
Oh, they were night and day different.
Yeah.
First one we tasted, it was good. It was a really good one, but it didn't lack any impact. It wasn't any different than anything I've ever tasted before. The second one was really hot, but just tons of like rum spice. Like just a lot of really cool spices. We all called it the pirate whiskey. We just had these like what you think of pirate spice if I say that out loud. Like what does that mean? Like clove and cinnamon and like vanilla and stuff. Third one was very like nuanced and fun. And then like this was the fourth one, I think. I think it only was four. And this one to me was just, it was so unique. It was so different. And from both perspective of I want to put this in cocktails to also we want to like serve this and make it different and make it something that if you set it next to us, another McCarthy's, it would be night and day difference. This was the one that we finally landed on.
It makes your lips numb for a little while. It's good. It's peppery.
It also stands up to water really, really well. So we were playing with adding little amounts of water to it, and just like it does really, really well with water.
I'm going to do a little experiment on my own. I have a Westmoreland store pick of McCarthy's. So I'm going to do an A-B comparison.
I like it.
Style Robbie did. Now let's get. So yours comes in at 55%.
Yep.
And 55%. Yep. All right. So let's do a little nose testers. Yeah. Oh man, yours is good. Sweet.
Thank you.
Oh, whoa. Not the same. Holy sh! Like these are so different. They could actually be a different whiskey. Holy fuck! Pardon my French. Like yours is medicinal. Like I mean, it's got that peaty Band-Aid smell. I mean, there's no way to get around it. And then the Westmoreland is way more like all fruit. Like compared to yours, I wouldn't even say it was a peated whiskey. But before, like, had I not ever smelled yours, like this one smells like a smoke bomb. But compared to yours, it smells like an Irish whiskey. Like it is fruity.
Yeah.
Like there's no smoke at all. That is weird. See, this is why I always tell people do an A/B comparison, because you're like, oh, that smells like this, but yeah, okay, now put it next to something else. All right, I'm going to taste yours first. Yeah, it's peppery, spicy, fruity though. All right. God, I just can't believe how different that smells. That is nuts.
I mean, I think you guys know me well enough now that to me, it's about the story. It's about the journey that you take whenever you do anything. There is no right or wrong answer. There is no whatever. It's the journey that you go on. And I wanted the whiskey that we selected to be this journey when you taste it.
Oh my God. This is
different whiskey.
It's not the same whiskey, I swear to God. Like yours, smoky, spicy, peppery, fruit on the back end. This one's just, it's all fruit, like almost flowery scent to it. And then the flavor, it's good. It's crisp. It's got little fruit notes, but there's no spice, no heat to it. It's, have you ever had Jameson 18?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that crisp smoothness that just, I mean, it's good as shit. That's this one. Like yours is like this one went to Yale and this one went to like Michigan State as far as like attitude. Like, you know what
I mean? In the wine world, we call it flabby.
Yeah. Like this one's more like, this one will bob its head to Muzak in the grocery store. And this one's like listening to like Megadeth. Like it's, that's crazy. Oh man,
it describes me so perfectly.
Oh man, I wish now that I thought about it, now that I've done it, I wish I would have poured a double bottle for each of you guys to try at the same time. Do you still have that McCarthy's?
I do.
From?
Yeah.
You should try it.
You know what? Next week, do we want to just go down a deep rabbit hole with McCarthy's? I'll call John, and see if John wants to come on here, because I think I have a bottle of McCarthy's from like 2012 or 13 or something like that. I have a bottle of McCarthy's from like 2019. I have the store pick, and then I have the botanist barrel pick.
Oh
And
man,
we can just taste them all.
dude, that is crazy. Oh man, but see now that I walked away from yours, okay, I get that medicinal smell, and then I go back to yours, and it's way more.
Getting punched in the face with it.
Oh, shit, that's crazy. Like if as soon as you smell yours, and then you go back to Westmoreland, the peat just absolutely disappears, like it's no longer existent. That's
And
crazy.
I mean, I'm definitely no twinkle toes when it comes to like taking, tasting things and whatnot. I love spice. I love smoke. I love flavor in general. Like, think of a flavor. Yeah, give it to me. But at the same time, I want each flavor to stand for itself and to be a part of it. So, I mean, if I'm going to select something, it needs to have spice. It needs to have smoke. It needs to have fruit. It needs to have everything.
Yeah.
They all need to be loud and expensive and be like, hey, I exist here. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to knock on Westmoreland. It's a different profile. You know what I mean?
What I love about it though is like you have to remember like it's the artist that picks it too. It's not just like so Westmoreland's artist picked that.
Yeah.
They said this is what I want to pick for this. Whether it's from the mindset of like this is what I think the average customer is going to like, or this is my style, or this is what I selected because I think my wife will like that. Whatever. Everyone has a different perspective on what they choose and why they choose it. My perspective was this needs to stand up against a Evan Williams 100 proof bourbon. And I'm not going to put that much in there. So it needs to really like be impactful. At the same time, it also needs to be something that if I fed it to you guys, like you're going to be like, damn, buy me dinner first before you smack me around.
Or after, whatever.
How many barrels do they make that's up for, you tried 3 or 4? I mean, do they go in when they made that? Did they know this is for store pick potentials or?
If I remember correctly, I think they have a vague understanding. I think when we decided that we were going to do a store pick, I think we were we were the first bar to do it. Now that this is an available thing, it's mostly just store picks for different liquor stores. Before this was available, Multnomah Whiskey Library did do something with them. And they picked their own barrel of something that was really quite special. I think it was like a 6-year bourbon or 6-year single malt. But I think they to some degree know that they're not going to probably use these barrels or they need to wait for these barrels. At the same time, they're both really, really open to the process in the sense like if we didn't like any of the 4 that we tasted, we could start diving into other barrels.
Well, I definitely think as with most barrel picks, whether it's McCarthy's or Buffalo Trace, the ones you're picking are just far enough off of their flavor profile that they don't mind losing them.
Oh, I mean, for sure. In the sense that remember that every time you buy a Buffalo Trace, Evan Williams, that has to be the same.
Yeah.
Or if it's off target, they're putting it to the side.
And so you have these tasters that come in there every day and taste this stuff. I mean, these people are some of the most amazing human beings in the world from my point of view, in the sense that you can taste these things and remember that, oh, that's, gone too far this way. And, you go talk to Brown-Forman and they're all chemists and they all go, well, it went this way because these things were more prominent. These chemicals were here and blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, okay, you see a world very differently than I do, bud. But they know how to do it and they blend the same flavor of Buffalo Trace or Woodford Reserve or Evan Williams or Wild Turkey every year. It's the same freaking bottle no matter what. But I mean, that's a damn near impossibility. But when you get to single barrels, I mean, like we talked about before, it's a wild card. You can get whatever you want. No 2 barrels will ever taste the same.
Nope. Damn, those are crazy different. But going back to yours, off of his, maple syrup, man. Like maple syrup drizzled over like Fruit Loops that have not been in the milk very long. Like, you know what I mean?
That's the
The
menu.
first one, when they still tear apart the roof of your mouth. Oh, that's good. Mm-mm-mm.
Some of the tasting notes we put on the menu. Fruit Loops with maple syrup drizzled over the top. Before the milk takes away from the actual structure of the Fruit Loops, they still will tear your mouth apart.
Yeah. I'd be like, oh yeah, I get it. This guy's a fucking genius.
One of these days.
Well, now, even now getting a barrel is a pain in the butt because everybody and their grandma buys them. Like every YouTube channel I know, they buy their own barrels now. Or, there's there's a bar, something, the Whiskey Club. There's actually a club of people in Portland that I'm not invited to for some reason, but they buy like 4 or 5 barrels a year. Just this group. I'm like, man, that's, on average, what, 250 bottles per barrel?
Something like that, yeah. Whether it's a single barrel or not, I think 225 is what we got out of our barrel.
Yeah, and that's probably not a lot of Angel share either.
No.
But you bought a barrel of whiskey 10 years ago, it was $5,000, $6,000. Now you can't even get near one for 10. Like you're spending about 10 grand.
And I mean, again, that goes back to like how special Oregon is. You just have to kind of prove that you can go through that kind of whiskey.
Yeah.
And, if it's a club, I don't know how you prove that. At a bar, liquor store just kind of looks up their history of their old CC records and how much liquor they buy and how much they go through. And then it's either like, well, you go through, maybe $1,000 a month. We ain't going to do this for you. Oh, you go through like $5,000 of liquor a month. Yeah, we'll do this for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't the Multnomah Whiskey Library does that too, don't they? They buy a lot of barrels.
They do. They will do their own special picks of almost anything they can get. Multnomah Whiskey Library. That is entire. They have a position for that they hire and pay a lot of money for. Is someone who literally just on their radar is looking out for whatever bottle they can get their hands on.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. It is a well-oiled machine, from what I understand.
Man, is that why I can't get anything anymore?
Probably. I just brought a bottle of 55-year-old Yamazaki, and I'm just like, how did you even finagle that?
Well, but can they sell it in Oregon if they can't buy it?
Oh, they can sell it. They just, when you are a bar like that, you have international notoriety, you sell a lot, you go through a lot, you're always busy. You kind of get to call the shots on what is get brought into Oregon. And you can talk to your brands and be like, hey, I want this. Get it for me. And they'll figure out a way to make it happen.
All right.
Takes a while. Especially now with COVID.
I wonder if they can get some Southern Comfort.
Yeah, bartenders like to be stuck up, so maybe not.
God damn.
Do bars, is there stuff that you're like, we're not going to cover that? We're not carrying that shit. Don't even ask.
Oh, yeah. SoCo is one of them. Jägermeister, sadly, is one of them.
And so when somebody asks for a Jaeger, you'll just shake your head like, get out.
Sorry. And I try to be as polite as possible. Again, this is my own ego speaking. Like why I won't carry something or something. I don't like it. So why in the world would I want to sell it? I can't stand by it. At the same time, I kind of cry a little bit because Jaeger is a really well-made product. All of the ingredients are sourced either within 22 miles or foraged of the distillery. Like it's a really well-made product. It's just, I don't like it. And some idiot decided to come here to the States and be like, how are we going to sell this? Oh yeah, let's make a drink called Jaeger Bomb and let's just sell the crap out of that. It'll go great. And there's several different liquors that decided to do that back in like the 80s and the 90s, is like make these club drinks. And now they're having the hardest time, pivoting and doing something different where they're selling to these high-end cocktail bars. And Jaeger has been pushing hard to be more about a mixing ingredient. I just can't get behind it.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. If you don't like black licorice.
My thing is, I
It's
do
NyQuil,
like
isn't
black
it?
licorice. There's just other things I would rather put in my mouth that have black licorice as a part of it.
Yep.
I mean, I'll put Fernet in my mouth before I'll put Jaeger. Put Malort in my mouth before I put Jaeger. And that's just a personal thing.
Do you guys remember there was a drink called it was Avalanche and Aftershock or something like that? It came in like a bottle with like crystals on the bottom. It was like dark blue, like one was cinnamon and one was peppermint. Just go down a quick rabbit hole just of bad whiskey like that or drinks. My first year at UNM, I move in, my roommate isn't there yet. I go out to dinner with my family, come back. Some of his stuff is moved in, but he's not there. I'm like, oh, okay, go back out. I come back, never met my roommate. He's laying on the ground and there's blue vomit all over his half of the dorm room because he was drinking Aftershock and it's dark blue and it smelled like the worst York peppermint patty ever.
Oh my God.
To this day, like those cheap drinks like that, like I instantly go back there. I'm like, ugh.
I'll remember always like for a hot minute, Hypnotic tried to market to like cocktail bars, like, oh, you can make up a cocktail that'll be like this swirly like thing, and it was like, I don't think you understand the clientele that come in for and pay $13 to $15 for a cocktail. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's not gonna quite do it.
There's some liqueurs out there that are very gimmicky.
What's your go-to drink? Like cocktail.
Go-to cocktail? I am a snob for the basics. I love a Manhattan. I love an old fashioned. I love a martini, and I love a Negroni. Those are the four that. And I love just going to bars and trying whatever is on the menu. To me, cocktails are art. And so if you walk into a bar and you can tell that they just don't care, I'm getting wine or I'm getting, a beer and a shot. But if you go into bars, you're like, man, there's some thought that went into this place. There's some thought that went into this menu. I just want to try the thought. Like, I don't care what I'm getting. Let's try it out and see where it's at. Either it's going to be amazing or I'm going to be like, yeah, a lot of thought went into the look of it. Not a lot of thought went into the drink. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, been to a lot of bars where there was a lot of thought put in the drinks.
See, I used to do this thing where, like, I would go in and bartend, like, what do you want? And I'd be like, if you could pour yourself a drink right now, I don't care what it is, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes they're like, okay, like, like I'm not going to judge. I'm like, I just, if you could have a drink right now and you have all this in front of you, what are you drinking? And, a couple times it was pretty basic. It was like a Jack Coke or something. But there was a couple times where I got some good drinks. I was like, holy crap. Okay. It was the first time I ever got a Colorado Bulldog outside of my family's house. And I was like, okay.
I feel like you're going to get a lot of beer and shots when you go to a bar and ask for that. What do you want to drink? Take a shot of whiskey and a light beer. Okay.
Well, ironically enough, I went to a Penn State game in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, and I did that at this they have this sandwich place called the Pamanti Brothers. It's like there's like Philadelphia famous Pittsburgh sandwich shop, and they have one at Penn State campus. And I went in there, and sure enough, she gave me a beer and a shot of Southern Comfort. I mean, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes you'll win, sometimes you lose.
I mean, and this is why I don't know, for me, I walk into a bar and I can feel like, does this place care or does it not? And if they care, I want to try why they care. What's the story behind it? If they don't care, hey, you know what? Everyone finds their own way into business and finds their own reason to be in the industry. Doesn't mean that you have to be a cocktail nerd. Cool. I'll just try out the rest of your menu in some other way.
TGI Fridays, you ever cocktails there?
No. No.
So that's where they'll give you a Kahlua and root beer.
It's really, I mean, speaking from personal experience, it's really hard for good things to come onto a menu when your restaurant is so corporate that everything's the same across every place that there is. It stifles creativity. It stifles any form of art. And anyone who works there either is there because they're just cutting their teeth and it's the first job they got, or they've given up and they make enough money that they can support their lifestyle and their family. And it's consistent because it is TGI Fridays or whatever. And they don't care.
I'll never forget it. I was in New York City, Times Square, surrounded by, I mean, you could throw a rock and hit 15 different Italian restaurants. There was a line wrapped completely around the Olive Garden on Times Square. And I'm like, and it's like, oh, okay. You went for what you knew. You know what I mean? You're probably from Kansas and you're like, oh, look at the Olive Garden. Let's get some breadsticks. Like.
The thing is, if you now you go to no restaurant is bad in New York because they all have to survive. But like those mob-owned restaurants, those are the ones you don't want to go to because they don't care. They know they're going to get the money they need. They don't care about their product.
No.
Well, it was funny. We were out and we're like, oh, let's get some food cart food. And we looked, and there was one corner was a food cart, and another corner was a food cart. One of them had like 4 or 5 people in it. The other one had like 20 cabbies lined up ready to come eat it there. And we're like, that's the one we need to eat at. And my friend was like, why? I'm like, first of all, that one, they can eat anywhere and they're eating there. And they know it's safe enough because they can't risk getting sick in their car driving around all night. So I know the food is going to be quality there. It's like, oh yeah.
Hey, always follow the locals.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, you go sit down in a Chinese restaurant and it's empty, you start to worry. You go to a Chinese restaurant and it's packed with Chinese.
And I mean, to me, that's how I choose. Like when I want to go and experience food from another culture, it's like, okay, which of these restaurants is the one that people go to from that culture, from that country? And if it's a bunch of like Americans going there, I'm like, okay, this place knows how to market. Let's sit down and have coffee sometime because I would love to learn. But if there's not, you go out to, I don't know, for me, like Laotian food, like there's only 2 places in town that I can think of that there's Laotian food. And one of them's a tiny little marketplace out towards the airport. Some of the best Laotian food I've ever had. And I just went to one the other day that had really great stuff. But, both those places, you go there. Like the one in the marketplace, the marketplace is owned and run by Laotian people. And the food they sell there, and the styles of food they sell there are Laotian made. And so you go back into the little cafeteria diner area, and it's like, yes, please, I will take.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. That when I lived in Vegas, there was and I'm completely forgetting the name of it, but there was this dive Italian restaurant. Like it looked, I mean, it was 1960s motif, 70s motif, and I think not out of irony, they hadn't updated it, and it was near the Hard Rock. I forgot the name of it. Best Italian food, and like I've seen people go in there and they've seen Wolfgang Puck eating in there, and like you know what I mean. And it's just this. I want to say it's Giuliani's or something like that, but yeah, you know what I mean. And it's they care about it, you know what I mean. And I've been in the Botanist before, and it kind of has the same feel. Like everybody that's working there, it's not a job. They actually give a shit that they're there. You know what I mean?
And that's the one thing I have been extremely blessed and lucky with in life is having and working with people that care. And when you're in another restaurant, when you're in someone else's restaurant and there's people there that care, it speaks volumes of that restaurant. But working at your own restaurant and people care, it's like, wow, this is cool. This is really humbling.
How is it not? I mean, you're your own boss. I mean, you get to make your own decisions, but the buck stops with you too. You know what I mean?
It's difficult. So when you open a restaurant, you have to realize that part of it is your own vision and part of it's the guest's vision. I can't tell you the number of restaurants I've walked into and it's all the owner's vision. It's like, okay, you missed the point. or vice versa. I walk into a restaurant, it's all the guest provision, and you're just like, okay, this is a shit show because people are fickle and people are all over the place. So you have to have this balance of going, okay, I want to have my own vision. I want to have this thing that means something to me, but I also do need to listen to my regulars and my customers and my guests and my staff and make decisions that benefit, the greater good. And so, every month, I like to say, or every year, Botanist had to change. It had to evolve into what its guests wanted while also keeping the framework. But that allows a restaurateur and allows an owner to be like, okay, well, what really matters to me? And you get to look at each thing that you open this concept with and go, well, do I really care about that? Or will I allow that to change and evolve and be what it will be? Or is this something that's so important to me, I'll never let go of it? For me, one of those things was honey. Like I will always use Oregon farmer made honey. I'll never use anything else. And that meant something to me because I know who I'm supporting. I always will, try to my best to support local farmers and local distillers. That means something to me. I always will try to keep products on the back shelf that I care about and I think speak volumes to that category or that brand. I don't like to have additives in my tequila. I don't like to have, brands that are said they're made by one person, they're actually made by someone else. I don't like to have lies on my bar. And, that's slipped a little bit and we carry people because the balance of how good they are as an actual company and what they give back to the community, it outweighs the fact that they're just outright lying about their product. But, that's things I've had to learn and decide on.
Yeah. The only question I have about the Botanist is I was in there the other day and I didn't see any Booker's bottles.
I haven't gotten the actual Booker's bottle on the back bar in a while.
No, do you not love America? Is that what it is, Robbie?
I love Booker's. Honestly, haven't found a bottle in a while.
Yeah, they're getting hard. They're getting hard to find. I have to do some dirty stuff to get one.
Whiskey, again, I think this is because whiskey's in a bubble, but I'm starting to notice that whiskey is not the sought after beverage that it used to be.
Mm-mm.
And so people come into a bar and 5 years ago it was like, I want to see your whiskey list. It's like, okay, here you go. Nowadays it's like, let's have a cocktail, or let me see your tequila list. So tequila is the one that gets called for these days more than anything else.
That's good. Maybe it'll slow things down because the market's about to get flooded with whiskey anyways.
And that's the real sad thing is just as the market is we're kind of done with this, all of the barrels that they put down 12 years ago are ready to be cracked open. And it's like, we have whiskey, and no one cares.
Yeah.
Well, now it's the time to start collecting and ride the wave for the next one.
Exactly. You might have to wait 40 years.
Yeah. But heck yeah.
I think the 60s was the last time that there was a big whiskey boom.
Just have Mad Men do a reboot. We'll be all right.
True. Or some other crazy movie where everyone drinks old fashions and Sazeracs and stuff, and it'll be all the crazy again.
So what is an old fashioned? I always forget.
Don't get me started. Oh wait, you already did. So if you look up in a dictionary, what is a cocktail? A cocktail is defined as something that has a spirit, sugar, bitters, and water. Because remember, back when cocktails were first invented, there was no refrigeration. Therefore, their ice was expensive and you didn't really get it. So cocktail, spirit, bitters, sugar, water. Could be any spirit, could be any kind of sugar, could be any kind of bitters, could be any kind of water. Fast forward to, I don't know, maybe even the 1900s or whatever. An old fashioned was basically the new name for the cocktail, which was whiskey more based with sugar, and you took out a sugar cube and you muddled it with bitters and added some water. Basically made a simple syrup from scratch right then and there. And then Prohibition happens. Everyone forgot about it. And then it started to come back, and somehow muddling cherries and muddling orange slices into it all came about. And so you had all these bars muddling these, fairly large orange slices in there and stuff like this. And it became this fruit punch with all this stuff hanging out in there. And then around 1990, early 2000, you had bartenders be like, I believe the recipe just calls for 2 ounces of whiskey and, some sugar and bitters, and you stir it. That's all there is. And so then the renaissance of the old fashioned came back.
Then Mad Men came out.
Yeah.
So is the cocktail, I've never seen Mad Men, but is what he would get on Mad Men true to what he would have gotten in the 1950s?
No, not for the 1950s, not at all.
Or whenever
maybe.
that show takes place.
Yeah.
I don't know. And depending on when it takes place, would have told you exactly what you got. Like 1890s, 1900s, that was really the golden age of cocktails. Like there was some really cool stuff coming out back then. And you had bars that were, bartenders in cities were next to your doctor. You asked what your first baby's name was going to be, and you asked your bartender. That being said, pre-prohibition, only men were allowed in bars. And so it was, you had basically urinals built into the front of the bar. It was a raunchy kind of just filthy ass place. And prohibition happened, and all the bartenders who were making, doctor salaries, literally. These bartenders made money, owned property, all that. Your job's illegal. What do? Over 90% of them left. They either went on cruise ships or they went to Europe or Cuba or Singapore, and that's all that skill, all that talent lost. And so then you got a prohibition. There's no one who remembers how to make a cocktail. It's all vodka sodas, gin tonics, very simple things, whiskey sodas, whiskey Coke. And then around like 1970, 1980, things started to kind of come back around, and fruit drinks became a thing, and shop drinks became a thing. And then all of a sudden, 1990s, 2000s hit, and people were like, let's look back at some of these old books and let's rethink how to do this again.
Heck yeah. Good, Robbie. You picked a good one.
Well, thank you. I like to think I did. I like to think I know what I'm doing here once in a while.
You nailed it, my man. Well, I think we're going to end this one a little early. I know Chad's got to get up early, get to work. So
A little bit.
Yeah.
Got about 3 more hours.
All right. Well, thank you guys enjoying. Good pick. If you're watching this and you need to get a bottle, Uptown Liquor, I think they're $59. Tell them knock twice on the tequila shelf and say Robbie sent you. And that's the password to get in.
And they'll charge you more.
Thankfully, this is Oregon. They can't charge anymore. So
Yeah.
good times be rolling. Again, I am conscious_bartender on Instagram.
And I'm Northwest Whiskey, NW Whiskey Man on Instagram.
I'm somewhere out there. You'll have to look.
He's the greenhorn, but Instagram's a lie. It's okay, guys. If you want to contact us, that's the way to contact us.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one, and see you all next week when we taste more McCarthy's, because let's go down this rabbit hole.
Do it.
Bye all.